sorry. You need to drive normal laps during qualifying. Your laps won't count till you reset the car and start over. One to go. Next time by, line up on the left side. The estimated strength of field is 1,807. Pit road is closed right now. Let's go points racing. Still waiting on 2 cars to grid. Waiting on the final car to grid. About to go green, stay focused. The pace car is off, be ready. Letter 8, car by. Catch up, 8, car. Green flag, green flag. Car right. Clear on the right. Go left. Right side. Clear.
Solid.
1. Right side. You got a slow car on the right. Clear. The car in P3 just set the fastest lap. 46.534. Just set your fastest lap of the session. Just set the fastest lap. 45.915. New fastest lap for you. running. 46.186. Fastest lap of the session. Just set your fastest lap of the session. 5 minutes to go. That car is a lap down. Right side. Clear on the right.
Either lap down and get the fuck out the way.
I will report you for language.
Car 2 is now leading. White flag this time. out that corner and got a slow down penalty. Checkered flag, checkered flag. Great job, you did really well. It looks like you've got some engine trouble. You've probably lost some power.
It's spring break down here, and while everyone's in a party mood, there's work.
Mother Nature's smiling on the field today with the sun shining brightly, and temperatures in the mid to high 70s, track temp around 97 degrees. And the breeze, though, can certainly affect the handling of these cars, especially if you get that tailwind down the front straightaway. It really pushes you into turn one. So speaking of one, let's talk about race number one of the weekend. Take you back, the green flag waves on the season. The largest field ever for round one of Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And number 29 out in front. Will Bamber behind the wheel from the pole position takes the lead down to turn one. Didn't take long for the action, though. The 47, Derek Ware with a spin in turn 16.
A little bit later on, contact further back in the pack. Paul Nimshoff into the tail of Chris Tasca. He goes around, not for the final time of the day, unfortunately.
Yeah, David Staub and Dean Newells come together. Staub in that bright yellow number 48 got the worst of it, loses a $3,000 mirror in the process. But in the end, Elias De La Torre behind the wheel of the 29 shares with Will Bamber. They take the victory. What a way to start the 2026 season.
Perfect start for them in their championship bid. They were runners-up a year ago. They were runners-up in both of these races as well a year ago. They would have really liked to have those points for a race win as the season progressed, but a picture-perfect start to their championship bid.
Take a look at the starting grid there on the left side of your screen. You'll notice the different color markers beside the drivers. 4 different classes in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And you'll see those colored triangles up in the upper right side of the windshield if you were sitting in the car, upper left if you're looking at it from the outside, denote the different classes: Pro, Pro-Am, Am, and LB Cup. You'll also notice a rectangle on the rear of the car, left rear bumper, that shows the same color and class designation. That helps you, it helps us, and certainly it helps the drivers too, because you've got to think about who you're racing with as the lights are off on the Lamborghini Urus safety car, pace car right now, as the rest of the field through 16 trying to catch up, getting ready for the start. And they'll start it just like they do any other IMSA series in the paddock. You've got to remain in column formation as you go across the start-finish line. They're slowing everyone down. The pace car will accelerate away, and then it will be up to Elias De La Torre today aboard the 29 to lead the field of green.
Well, these are the tense moments before the start. 39 cars. It's a jam-packed grid, that's for sure, and mixed up as well. Some cars in very different positions than we saw them in race number 1. Everyone buckle up. 50 minutes on the clock. Race 2 about to get underway.
Bright orange Lamborghini outside. Mark Miller on the pole in the Pro-Am category. So you already on the front row, you've got Pro and Pro-Am. Know who you're racing with because it's time to go. The green flag flies at Sebring for race number 2 of the weekend.
Beautiful sight coming across the start-finish line. Everyone in their columns. Elias De La Torre sweeping across the bow of Mark Miller. Nick Persing there as well. And Gianno Torino, who did not get to the finish yesterday. Someone with a problem, though, at the inside of turn 1, Brian.
Seems to have lost drive. The car well slowed down. Watching this gaggle of Lamborghinis try to work their way on this first lap. The Hankook tires are a little bit cool. You got to be patient, but try to hold on to that position. Don't lose anything.
That's the name of the game here at the start. The old adage, you can't win it on the first lap, but you sure can lose it. We've seen that play out over the years. Problems there, though, late on the brakes. That's Nick Persing, and he's having all kinds of problems getting that car in gear. Coming out of the hairpin, that car started 3rd and has plummeted down the order.
Indeed he has. He's dropped well back as you see battles throughout. And again, know who you're racing with. There is a mandatory pit stop around the halfway mark of this 50-minute race, and you've got to be very, very cognizant of who's in front of you, who's behind you, and today, as you can tell from this shot as they head to turn 13, who's beside you, Ryan?
Oh, that's a huge part of it for sure. Really, really nip and tuck stuff when you've got a big pack of 39 cars all bunched together. Another look at this down into turn 7. See if we can figure out what happened. Late on the brakes. What do you make of that?
I think Persing gets in there and is surprised by the speed or the lack of speed. Mark Miller slowed his Lamborghini down a little bit more than Persing had expected. Had to get on the brakes harder than he expected to and actually steered left to keep from making contact. That put him out on the marbles, on those cold Hankook tires, and that's where those positions went.
Car off at the back of the pack. That's Troy Peterson, able to get back on the track. By the way, we expect to see Ernie Francis come through the pit lane here soon. It's a drive-through penalty. He wasn't supposed to be driving solo. Luke Berkeley a bit under the weather. Wish you the best, Luke. Hope to have you back on track soon. But because of the change, Ernie Francis will have to serve a drive-through penalty. Had a really good run yesterday, finishing on the podium.
Yeah, Berkeley not feeling well, as you said, so Francis by himself. And there's how we saw the 72 go around. Officials are going to look at that. And we saw penalties yesterday handed down for contact.
We did indeed. More misfortune, by the way. Gabriel Holguin, he's going around the track, but doing so at a reduced pace. Evidently a flat tire on board the number 45.
And this is where we're talking about know who you're racing with. That bright green number 44 doing battle right now with the car beside him. This is not for class position. That's the number 1 of Persing. We talked about the problems that he had. And Foster right now aboard that bright green, and I love the cartoon livery on the 44, needs to understand who's there. You don't want to drop back into the clutches of another Pro-Am competitor, but Kyle Marcelli is the next Pro-Am car back, and he is 5 cars behind you right now, so don't risk your car for a position that doesn't really matter.
And you hope that Persing isn't too frustrated with the moment that he had earlier. Yesterday didn't go quite according to plan for Persing and his new co-driver, Hampus Eriksson, brother of Marcus Eriksson. Hampus won the championship last year. Persing had a pretty solid year as well. Now they're paired up together for the first time, and I think had championship aspirations undoubtedly coming into this season. Hasn't gone as smoothly as last year did when Hampus swept both of the first 2 races of the season here at Sebring.
See, right now the 45 on pit road, Gabriel Holguin behind the wheel. He's the car that had contact with the 72, cut down that right front Hankook tire. They had to fix that, but then I just watched them remove the right rear quarter panel, that bodywork, and it came off easily. And I can only imagine that if a mirror costs $3,000, what does that right rear cost?
Oh, I shudder to think about it, Brian. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. Another look here at the contact, and That's, like you said, where those punctures likely came from, and that incident, by the way, is under review.
Good battles throughout, and we talk about the 4 different classes, the mandatory pit stop. We should mention this as well because you were talking about Ernie Francis driving solo. If it's a 2-driver format, the pit stop time, minimum pit stop time, is 93 seconds on pit road. If it's a single driver format, it's 96 seconds minimum on pit road.
Right, and that's done to equalize the 2 formats of single driver or 2 drivers. There's the thought that being a single driver, you would have a little bit of an advantage, given the fact that when the pit stops happen, you stay aboard, you're already in a rhythm, know the track conditions. You don't have to adapt the way a fresh driver would, and so the method the rules makers have come up with to try and equalize those 2 differences, the 2-driver versus the 1-driver, is the extended stay in the pit lane.
It makes perfect sense. You know the car, you know the tires. If you're the single driver format, you're going to have an advantage when you leave the pit stop. You've been out there. That 2-driver format, that second driver is going to have to kind of catch up to where everything is, how the track is right now, how the car is, and that's going to take them a lap to get that done. So I think they came up with a great process when they thought about the single and dual driver format. As you look right now, the 48 trying to fend off the position. David Staub behind the wheel of the 48 and involved in that contact yesterday where that right side mirror came off, and they were saying, you know, the problem is we could source a mirror if we weren't at the racetrack. If we were leaving in between races, we finished race number 2 and we lost the mirror in race number 2. Maybe we could find one somewhere other than at the parts truck at the racetrack, which probably costs a little bit more than if you bought one. Can you buy one on Amazon?
I don't know about Amazon. You can find them secondhand, though, somewhere, and that would be the preferred method, I think, from what the team has told us. And David, man, he's been a busy guy here at the racetrack this weekend. He's an attorney. Oh, that was super tight. Yikes.
Yeah, that wasn't going to work. Nick Grote aboard the 57 turns the 95, and you got to...
That was the 3rd time this weekend for poor Chris Tasca.
That's what I was going to say. Poor Chris Tasca has gotten the worst of it, and speaking of the worst of it, you can see that right rear handhook has been cut down and didn't realize it when he got to turn 17, so now it's 3.7 miles around to pit lane.
Oh, that's terrible timing to have that happen at a point where, you know, he couldn't recognize it just in time to dive into the pit lane. Has to try and limp the car around, and it's easier said than done, isn't it, when you've got the puncture there at the corner, loaded up that corner and went around again right in front of some traffic.
And this is where you've got to try to keep the frustration out of your head, because you're having a run, no fault of your own, you get turned, and now at the worst opportunity, 3.7 miles back. This is going to be interesting. That tire carcass on the racetrack right now, that I would think is probably going to necessitate a full course caution unless a competitor comes around and hits it. And nope, there it is. Great call by race control. Get that caution out early so that AMR Track Services team can get out there and remove that carcass, and we can get back to some green flag racing.
And this is going to bunch this field back up, and looking down, especially at a class like Pro-Am, where you have one driver as part of the lineup with more experience than the other, it's up at the team's discretion which driver you want to have start which race. And so for the teams that started their more experienced drivers here, Brian, in race number 1, their goal was to build as big of a gap as possible to try then and have the less experienced driver manage the rest of the way. That goes out the window when the caution bunches everybody up again. I look down at maybe the 77 car with Lindsey Brewer in it right now, Angelo Dinkov in car number 40. This brings them back into the mix relative to the front runners in the Pro-Am class, and this sets up pretty nicely as long as we have a green run to the checkered flag in the second half.
Yeah, you see Track Surfaces there getting that tire picked up. And we'll get back. This shouldn't be a very long full course caution at all. Let's see how this happens once again. You see the 57, just kind of, this racetrack draws you into that mistake. It just does. You've got big wide openings to a lot of these corners. And right now, everything looks fine for Chris. But then he gets down there to turn 17 and the tire lets go. And as he's trying to limp around, we see the spin there in turn 3.
And the contact was with the 57. That's Nick Grote, who is the defending AM Class champion. He was the winner in class yesterday. So depending on how that is viewed by race control, that could be a setback for one of the top drivers within the AM Class.
Yeah, a long way back for Chris Tasca. That's going to put Rocky T. Bulldog in the lead of LB Cup. We saw both of these drivers, Tasca and Bulldog, trade the top spot in practice and qualifying. And for Tasca now, he's going to get a little escort back over to the pit lane, make sure that any car that might be coming up behind knows that there's a slow-moving vehicle in front of him.
Oh, that's really smart. And unfortunately, it comes here with a quick yellow, so it's not like he's going to be able to get in, replace that tire, and get caught up. We're getting reports that the lights are already off on the Lamborghini Urus safety vehicle, so we're half a lap or so away from a restart, which almost compounds the issue for Chris Tasca. Not enough time to get back to the pits and get bunched back up to the field and hopefully recover. He'll need another yellow to help with that cause.
You know, sometimes you just look at it and luck plays such an important part in motorsport. You can prepare, you can plan, you can strategize, you can do all of that. And that little bit of contact, you look at the dive planes on the front of this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2, and they're razor sharp, and the nose gets put in there alongside that sidewall of that Hankook tire, and it doesn't really matter if it's made of steel. That front end is going to do damage to that rear tire, and that's exactly what we saw when the 57 got together there with the 95. So long way back around for Tasca, but we will go back green this time, as you said, Ryan. Lights out on the safety car.
Looking here at the bright green car, that's Gianno Torino. New team here this year, Torino Racing. Gianno, a former champion in the series back in 2024, teamed up with Ernie Francis. Actually, this yellow really good for Ernie. It brings him back into the mix after that drive-through at the start of the race. Only did 2 races last year, did Gianno, but made them count, podiums in both of them. Really unlucky yesterday to only get a 13th place result, but right now running in podium contention early in the going of race 2.
Yeah, a lot of talent behind the wheel, and really, when you talk about this series, Ryan, you and I discussed it yesterday, the largest field of pro entries that Lamborghini Super Trofeo has ever had anywhere, and it shows you how this series has grown, not only in numbers, but in the level of the drivers. As we go back to green, Elias De La Torre leads the field. Mark Miller comes across the line second, then Torino, as you were talking about, then Gore, and then Nick Persing, who had the problems early on. Persing looking up the inside into turn 1 as Tasca re-enters the racetrack with a new Hankook tire.
I might have left him in the pits to let the field come through if I were the team. This is a really tough spot just to get parachuted into the midst of this restart. That said, off and running here. I thought Persing looked awfully aggressive early, trying to get around the out-of-class car. It might have been able to do so. A lot of smoke, Brian. There's somebody off in the background.
It is. It's Tasca, and I saw him going into turn 3. I would think that the only tire they would have changed was the right rear. There was a lot of smoke, tire lockup off the right side of the car, and why I find that odd is this Lamborghini has a very sophisticated anti-lock braking system on it, so I think there may be more at issue than just the cut-down Hankook tire for Tasca, as side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel, Persing aboard the number 1, having a great battle right now with the number 88 of Gianno Torino.
How about that? On the charge here. Really impressive stuff on the restart from Persing, who was shuffled back, remember, in this corner on the first lap of the race, but he's been able to make up a couple of spots here on the restart. Positions himself nicely. There's still an out-of-class car between himself and the class leaders, but in a much better position than he was even a couple of minutes ago.
Tell you what, looking there at that battle, Tommy Gore aboard the number 4, just behind Torino. He's the next car in line, the red and black, and a problem for the 22 now in the tire wall. That is turn 14, I believe, and then we'll go full course caution because that car is up in the tire wall significantly.
And that's the youngster, James Lawley, just 22 years of age, comes out of the Formula Regional Americas Championship, driving with this same Atlantic racing team that he's with here in Super Trofeo as they expand into sports cars with a bit of a lengthy history in single-seaters. And that is a significant impact, isn't it? The tire barrier did its job. It cushioned the blow, but significant damage nevertheless.
You can see that low front end of this Lamborghini Huracan kind of up underneath that belting on the tires. And that belting plays such an important role back to the days of when you just kind of held them together with plastic nets, and a lot of times the bundles of tires would explode. This belting actually absorbs a lot of the energy, moves the tires, of course, but also takes energy and it expands it down that belting, and it takes it away from the driver. This is a big impact.
It is. That's the end of it. I'm still not sure exactly what caused him to get out there in the first place. But that will take some work, Brian, to get that car extricated. It's pretty well buried in the tire bundle.
I want to tell the safety worker that's a very expensive mirror that he just picked up. Since it's been chronicled. And by the way, I did say something yesterday that I've been corrected on, because I thought that every one of these Super Trofeo Lamborghinis had a rear-facing camera in them. All the cars in WeatherTech do and are required to, and so I thought that we would have the same thing here, but interestingly enough, none of these cars have the rear-facing camera, so the mirrors are indeed important.
Pretty important. Maybe that's why they cost so much.
You need them, so they cost more.
Yeah, there's something to that, I think. Well, Lawley in the tire bundle there. He's from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Like I said, open wheel background, was 7th in the Formula Regional Americas Championship, which is basically the U.S. Formula 3 series. Tasca back in the pit lane now, and they're doing some work on the front.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, there was something wrong because of the lockup that was very, very evident. But hey, you know, hats off too to Tommy Gore, running 5th right now in the number 4 from ANSA Motorsports. You don't see a lot of race car drivers here in the States that hail from Jamaica, but he hails from Montego Bay. His father, well known down in the Caribbean in the racing community there, and this is Tommy's first opportunity in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He's done some GT4 racing in Germany over the last couple of seasons, but this is a huge, huge opportunity. Got a big presence in social media, is trying to make the best of it. He's having a great run right now.
He sure is. It's a really cool opportunity for them. Teamed up with Colin Queen. They had a tough day yesterday. Didn't get to the finish, credited with the 12th place result. But really, Tommy has been trying to fly the flag for Jamaica and international motorsports for the last handful of years. Went over and did a little radical racing in the UK in 2022. Did some Formula 4 racing in Central Europe in 2023. And then moved to GT4 Germany. Finished 8th in the championship last year in what was actually an all-Jamaican lineup, interestingly enough. It's rare enough to see one driver from Jamaica, but they put together an entire two-driver team of Jamaican drivers last year and finished on the podium 3 times in what is a fairly competitive GT4 series. But, Brian, to go from GT4 to one of these purebred race cars, these Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars, it's a huge jump in performance, and he's not the only one that's coming out of GT4 racing, and the ones that I've talked to have said, yeah, this is a big step up. These cars are a whole handful to drive.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the horsepower and the top speed. I said at the top of the show, higher top speed than you'll see the GT cars in the WeatherTech series have, simply because of the lack of aerodynamics on these cars. They're slipperier down the straightaway, and in fact, you look at the pole times, they were right in the 2-minute mark, and that's exactly what GTD and GTD Pro cars have been turning a little faster in qualifying today for GTD and GTD Pro, but it just shows you the performance capability of this car. And we were talking about Tommy Gore. You got to talk about his teammate as well, because Colin Queen, 21 years old from Florida, he was born with CHD, congenital heart defect. He's the only active driver in professional motorsport who lives in races with CHD. And you talk about the things that you overcome to experience and live your passion. You look at young drivers like Colin Queen and what they've done, it's unbelievable. And hey, let's look forward as well to next year and the new Lamborghini that we'll see I believe, worldwide in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but we see this weekend here at Sebring in the IMSA WeatherTech sports car paddock, and that is the GT3 Temerario. Lamborghini FAF Racing fielding that car this weekend, and they've been very honest, Ryan, about what they expect and hope to get out of this weekend, and that is simply experience with the car. Speed will come. They're looking for experience this weekend.
Well, and you can learn so much in a place like Sebring. For decades, this has been a place that manufacturers have come to break their cars, Brian. This is a place that exposes any shortcomings in design. There's a reason that to this day so many teams take their cars here to test in the preseason. So, yeah, I think that's quite circumspect on their part to not put any expectations on the team, on the drivers. It's a big undertaking for Lamborghini Squadra Corsa. The Huracan shares a lot of components with the sister brand and the Audi R8. Not so with the Temerario. This is totally in-house. First GT3 car that Lamborghini has built from the ground up. And a lot of expectations, I think, here this weekend for the debut. And then just as we see the car start to roll out globally in this first year, it's a beautiful looking car, no question about it.
I'm excited to see it next year because that means that the Huracan will be used, and maybe you and I can get a deal on one, Ryan.
Yeah, I like that. Although I think the mirror might be my budget, unfortunately. So that could be problematic.
I'm right there with you, buddy. I got one in college and another one getting married, so they got some wedding costs coming up, so we'll see. Hey, pit stops. Pit stop window in the 50-minute race is basically from 20 minutes in to 20 minutes to go, so you got that 10-minute window in the middle. Obviously, we're in it right now, so once we go back to green flag racing, the pit will open and the pit stop window will open. All the cars will need to go past pit in to start that lap, that green flag lap, and then the officials will open pit lane, and we'll expect to see takers soon after that.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially for some of the teams I mentioned earlier in the Pro-Am class that have their more experienced driver waiting in the wings. They're going to want to get that pit stop done as early as possible and maximize that driver's drive time. It's a little different in the Pro class, for instance, where there's not a huge time delta between the two drivers in terms of their lap time. And so you could see a little bit of strategy play out here. There's a thought that pitting early in the window is a good thing because it covers you from a potential full course yellow. You could also get out of traffic and maybe get some clean track to work with and use that undercut strategy. But the same is true as well. If a bunch of people pit, then you're left all alone. You could tell your driver, put your head down, turn in some fast laps and see if the overcut will work.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to just kind of glance at Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, or really any of the series throughout the world, the Lamborghini series throughout the world, and just go, it's a 50-minute race. Strategy doesn't, I mean, how can strategy play in a 50-minute race? Well, that pit stop really changes. It makes you think about strategy. Who are my drivers, as you said? Do I have two pro guys? Do I have a pro and an AM? Is it two AMs? How am I going to get the best out of this? Speaking of the best, some of the best racetracks in North America is where Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America runs. Sebring, then WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Watkins Glen, Road America, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then that final one, the World Finals. Ryan, are you going? I haven't gotten my invitation yet.
No, I know. We got to put a word in. Maybe the two of us can make the trip together. That'd be good fun. What a great way to close out the season, though. You've got Indianapolis and Monza, two tracks that actually have a little bit of a link, because in the 50s, 1957 and 1958, a bunch of the Indy cars of the time went and raced at Monza on the high-banked oval that they had against Grand Prix cars, against some sports cars, actually, and it was known either as Monzanapolis, and they called the race of two worlds. So kind of cool to see those two tracks back-to-back on the calendar, given their shared history.
I find that fascinating, and it just really shows that throughout history, motorsports is bigger than a lot of people understand. And one of the other things that you'll find is that all of the manufacturers in the IMSA paddock race because they love it, but they race because they utilize it in the cars that they build. Obviously, Lamborghini on the street, it is an exotic car that not a lot of people have the opportunity to drive, but what is learned on the racetrack is applied on the street as well. And it's probably why the performance of the Lamborghini brand is so extreme, even in a street car.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these are cars that just scream performance. When you look at them, when you listen to the engine note, you know you're talking about a high-performance supercar. And then to take, what an easy conversion for Lamborghini, right? You take what you put on the street, and actually in some cases have to dial it down a little bit, right, to fit within the regulations that we see in global sports car racing. Some of these supercars of the street actually put out more power than their GT3 cousins.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when you look at the fact that in WeatherTech trim, there are GT cars that are detuned from their street version. And it's one of those things that the wow factor now in motorsports does not come from the horsepower number. It comes from the overall performance on the lap. It's easy to say, well, my street car has more horsepower than that. Well, guess what? Your street car doesn't have the downforce, it doesn't have the suspension, it doesn't have the braking capability, and it probably doesn't have the driver, so don't be foolish on the street trying to prove the performance of your car. And the race world is a very, very different world, and I can guarantee you this. Take a street car to a racetrack that is not properly prepared for a racetrack, and you'll be out of brakes in about 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, these are purpose-built for exactly what we're seeing here. Well, maybe not so much under yellow, but what we were seeing before the full course yellow. High-performance cars prepped by some of the top teams in North America. And we've seen that, that the North American teams can hold their own against anybody when we talk about an event like the World Final, where you take the 3 Continental Championships, bring them all together in one place, and finish the Continental Series on the Thursday and the Friday, but then Saturday and Sunday you pit them against one another, and it is not a rare thing at all to see World Final champions coming out of the North American Championship, even if they are racing on foreign soil, as it were.
There's part of the crowd that's here. I don't see anybody in the cow costumes. Those guys are famous. They're around somewhere, I can guarantee it. But look at the wind. We talked about that a little bit earlier on, and with that big wing in the back and the aerodynamics that the car does have, not nearly as advanced or extensive as the GT3 variants, that wind, once again, either down the front straightaway or the back straightaway, can have an effect on the way your car handles. If it's from behind, it's going to push the car into the corner a little bit, make it a little bit nervous in the first half of the corner. And if it's right on the nose as you head into the corner, well, that's just more aero over the car. It's going to really pin the nose. You got to be careful about that too. So think about that. You go into turn 1, you've got one kind of a car. You go into turn 17, you got a different handling characteristic of the car, because it's on the tail in one corner and on the nose in another.
And then there's no guarantee the wind stays the same one lap to the next. You can tell me, Brian, at a place like Indy, you know, you would look up and look at the windsock. Here at Sebring, the fans have all these flags around trackside. Do you think these guys are looking up at that to try and gauge the wind direction, see if it's shifted at all?
I guarantee you the more experienced drivers are. Your pro guys are. They know where it is. They know how it's going to affect the car. And certainly at a place like Indianapolis, it has a huge effect. You can look up for the flags, like you said. I actually had my eyes closed most of the time when I ran there, so I didn't pay attention to the flag all that much.
I can't blame you.
Yeah. It's why I do this, Ryan. It's why I do this. Lights out on the Lamborghini Urus safety car, so we'll go back to green. Remember, everybody needs to take the green on the racetrack, then the pit lane will open, and we'll expect to see pit stops. And we're running out of time. Only about 21 minutes left to go here. It'll be less than that by the time they get onto the front straightaway.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're getting to a point where really there's not much strategy left to it, because we're about up at the maximum stint time. And so that said, I think we'll see the pit lane a very busy place the first time of asking.
I would concur. Lamborghini Urus safety car has pulled away. Now we'll get to the restart zone, and it is time to go racing. Elias De La Torre He's going to try to get a good run off that final corner. It's not Mark Miller that he's worried about. He just doesn't want to give Miller the opportunity to move him back to the next Pro Class car, and he'd love to keep an out-of-class car in between himself and Nick Persing, who runs third. De La Torre in the throttle, 620 horsepower at work.
Nick aced the restart again. Second straight restart. He's been able to jump a couple of cars, or at least one in this case, around Miller now, which means the next car in line is De La Torre. That is the battle for the Pro Class lead. Finally, that class has found itself together once again. They've been split by traffic really since the very start of the race.
Remember, the 1 and the 29 fought all season long for the championship in Pro. Vermael no longer aboard the number 1. We talked about he's in the Pro-Am category, and Nick Persing now has a co-driver. Remember, Persing did this single driver format last year, and how many races could he have won had we not had that 3 extra seconds mandatory for the minimum pit stop time for single driver entry?
It's a good question. He managed to win 3 en route to 3rd in the championship. He did have a co-driver for the Indianapolis rounds. That was actually Jono Torino, who is sitting 3rd in this race. But you're right, the bulk of the season he ran by himself. Now he's teamed up with his teammate of a year ago, the reigning champion, Hampus Eriksson. Oh, big moment there for the sister car out of the same stable. That's down the order a little bit. Graham Doyle, winner yesterday in Pro-Am, puts the left sides in the dirt.
Well, and you could see that one coming as you come through 12 into the braking zone for 13. It's kind of hard to see that turn-in curbing driver's left, and you could see that Lamborghini just sliding out a little bit wide. Before he ever got there, you could kind of look at the trajectory and see where the car is going to end up. See that little wiggle right there, and then he clouts the end of that curbing. Not really dropping the wheel in the dirt is what upset the car. It's the end of that curbing, and you've got to be a little concerned about that left front tire and wheel, because that big hit like that can easily break a wheel or split the sidewall of that left front tire.
Did a great job to hang on to it. Pit window open, by the way, and here comes the field as expected. A couple of cars will stay out and try and extend this stint slightly, but just about everyone in the front half of the field has made that dive into the pit lane.
And we got some penalties being called as well. The 66 with a pass under yellow, the 72 with a pit exit violation, and the 95 running the red light at pit exit. So there are 3 drive-through penalties that'll be coming up. The 66, the 72, and the 95 for Chris Tasca. Remember when he was released back out, and you said, I think I would have held him? Well, the officials tried to. The red light was on, but Chris did not see it, and there will be a penalty.
Yeah, that's not on the team, that's for sure. Okay, so Persing stays out, and he's trying to use this extra lap without any traffic to put in a quick lap and use the overcut. Not surprised to see Mark Miller stay out as well. Paul Nimshoff doesn't quite have the experience that Mark does, so they'll try and extend this stint as long as they can and use that to their advantage, try and build a gap. But what's going to be interesting is how this works. Does the overcut work for Persing, or is he going to pay the price for it? We'll find out here in a few minutes.
I'll tell you what, he was quick, very quick, and I think he may have been quicker than De La Torre. So if he stays out, and that's what his team was doing, right? They were looking at lap time saying, hey, stay out, give me a qualifying lap. I need a qualifying lap right now, because if we can pick up a second or two, we might be able to take over that position on the pit stop.
That's what they're hoping for. That's what they're counting on.
16.
Wow.
And that's another one of those corners, Ryan. You pick up the throttle coming through the apex, and you don't want to lift, because if you breathe the throttle at all from the apex out, it's going to hurt you all the way down that long back straightaway. And a lot of times when you're too stubborn to lift, you end up with a little bit of agricultural driving at the exit. Persing now to pit lane.
Great save from Avery Towns, another youngster turning to Lamborghini Super Trofeo out of single-seaters, 22 years old from Dallas, Texas. Still learning the ropes a little bit, but did a great job hanging on.
And we talk a lot about the single-seat driver now looking to sports car racing, and I've heard you say young driver multiple times. throughout the weekend as it pertains to Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. And a lot of those young drivers are going to say, look, I'm going to get big-time horsepower experience here, 620. Doesn't have a lot of aerodynamic grip. I have to drive this. Does have some driver aids and anti-lock brakes and traction control, but this is a good place for me. I'm in front of the IMSA paddock, and this is a car that is very similar to a GTD machine. So let me show you what I can do. And I think that's why we see this field grow, especially in the pro category.
For sure, it's a great training ground. It has helped to jumpstart careers. And you see drivers that are already in the WeatherTech Championship still get involved here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo as well, in addition to that other program. Danny Formal is a great example. Graham Doyle's another one that's doing double duty here this weekend. It's just good seat time, good training, and as good of a car to prepare you for GT3 as anything out there.
Yeah, Danny Formal just won't leave, right? He just keeps reappearing. Here it is. There's the 1. There's the 29. This is for the lead. Oh, that was close, and the 29 has it for now. Into turn 3. Still holding the lead, but the 1 pressing. Hampus Eriksson behind the wheel. He's going to have to learn this racetrack and this race car very, very quickly to stay in contact with the 29.
Yeah, that's so tough, coming out of the pits and just getting parachuted into the fight right away. Did a pretty good job hanging with Bamber as best as he could there. Tried his best to stay ahead, but Bamber had a head of steam built up, timed that really well as well to make that pass and clear Hampus Eriksson. Now, half the way through this lap, Eriksson seems to be back in his rhythm a little bit. The tires, you don't see any changes there, of course, so they're already up to temperature. Another look at this, and wow, that was super close at the exit of the pit lane.
And Will Bamber was not going to lift. Come hell or high water, he could see that Lamborghini coming down the front straightaway. About halfway down, he could see that black number 1 exit pit lane, and he was like, I'm not lifting.
Hey,
I am not lifting.
He knew that could have been the race right there. Get that car ahead, keep the 1 behind, and then work to solidify that position. If Eriksson had been in front, if he had won out in that duel, then you don't know if you ever get the chance to make the pass. So you can certainly understand his willingness to be so committed, and boy, did it pay off.
Man, and if he had hesitated at all, he would have had to keep the car on the tighter line. They would have been side by side. Who knows who would have had the advantage when they got to turn 3. But as I said, Will Bamber was not to be denied.
No, fantastic commitment from him, and maybe the most high commitment quarter on the calendar here this year. One thing I want to cover off, I misspoke earlier about drive time. That's not really a factor here, is it? They just shifted the pit window back, and so that's why we're seeing Mark Miller, Wyatt Foster, etc. And Ernie Francis too. He's doing a massive overcut here, trying to come back from that drive-through penalty he had at the start of the race. They're going to push this stint as long as they can, and actually this breaks down pretty well for some of these drivers that can limit the time that their less experienced co-driver will get in the car at the tail end of the race.
This should be the battle for the lead after everyone is pitted and it all shakes out. Will Bamber has it. Hampus Eriksson wants it. And I'll go back again to last year when the number 29 and the number 1 were always scrapping for that victory. The 29 team, Elias De La Torre and Will Bamber left Sebring with 2 second-place finishes. They won the race yesterday. They're looking for another victory today. They want to one-up their performance last year, not only here at Sebring, but in the championship as well, Ryan.
Well, it was really exciting to see that De La Torre and Bamber came back for another go-round. I was really thrilled about that when the entry list was released, because they had an excellent season by just about any measure, but Formal and Eriksson had just a slightly better one, came out on top in that season-long duel. The fact that Eriksson's got a slightly different teammate, I mean, that's an interesting wrinkle to it for sure, but the fact that these two now can renew that rivalry of a year ago, I think we're going to see a lot of this in 2026.
I would think so, as well, as Bamber leads into turn 17. we're going to be running out of time on this pit window. It's going to be closing here very soon. So if you're one of those drivers who has tried to wait until the last moment, if you miss it and it closes before you get in, it will be a 3-minute time penalty post-race. So you can't afford to gamble too much.
No, and the teams will be able to predict based on average lap time and things like that. Is it safe to stay out for another lap, or do we need to come in? But what they can't necessarily predict is what happens if your driver spins on track, or there's an incident that you have to slow down for. Exactly. That causes you to have a slower lap time on the in lap. That could cause you to go over that end of the pit window. So there is a little bit of a gamble anytime that you're stretching it really close to the margins.
Well, and you always think about it. I can understand pushing fuel, you know, on the last stint. Can I do this? Can I not? I need to have this win to get back in the championship. If I don't win, I'm not in it, so you gamble with that. The gambles like this and going too far, I'm not sure they're worth taking. And I say this a lot when I talk about championships and what the average finish is in almost any series in the world that will get you the championship. The big picture is the championship at the end of the season. Yes, it's great to stand on the top step and drink champagne and get a bigger trophy and all of that other kind of stuff. But the season-ending championship is the biggest trophy you'll get, and the champagne tends to be a little bit better at the banquet than it does at the racetrack. So you got to think about, how much do I really want to gamble?
Now that is the calculus that's happening up on the pit boxes. Right now watching Danny Formal charge up through the field. Graham Doyle had a pretty good stint during the green flag running that he had that car in the top 10 overall. Formal now starting to charge his way forward, and I think he has gone to the lead now in the Pro-Am class. Had the fastest lap of the race yesterday, had the pole, got the win. I mean, it was a really tremendous day for Formal in the Pro-Am class for the first time. He's a 3-time Pro class champion, by the way, and now we'll see what he can do in a slightly different environment.
Now as the cars come down the front straightaway, completing this lap with just about 8.5 minutes to go. It cycled through the way that we thought it would. Will Bamber at the front of the field and in Pro, and then Hampus Eriksson, Colin Queen, that's Pro. And then you've got this battle here. This is for a class win.
At Dean Newell's, another TR3 Racing entries. They've got the overall leader, but Dean finished 5th yesterday. It was a day marred with issues for a number of drivers in the AM class. Not so much here today. Newell's, though, is going to have to fight for this. Johann Schwartz is tucked up right behind him. That's the silver car closing in on the black and orange machine. There's an out-of-class car running just ahead. I believe that's Ian Porter in the 8th place car in the Pro-Am class, and he's a bit of a cork in the bottle here. In just his second ever start in Super Trofeo, he was quick to admit, yeah, this is a lot of car. Never driven anything quite like it, but keep an eye on him. Super talented guy, only going to get faster as he gains experience.
Well, it's interesting because it looks to me like Ian Porter's number 81. Yeah, it's got the Pro-Am logo up in the corner of the windscreen. I was a little confused there for a moment, but as it should be. Closing down on 7 minutes to go from Sebring.
Boy, it gets late quickly, doesn't it? These races just fly by. We've chronicled the leaders in 3 of the 4 classes. Here's the 4th, LB Cup. This is a class for drivers that are new to motorsport, and it's Ray Shahi who's got that position, at least for now.
Yeah, but for how long? That's Rocky T. Bolduc just behind and beginning to really put the pressure on. Rocky had a bad day yesterday. Bad luck, car fast all day long. Race did not end the way that he wanted to, and he wants to get by Shahi. He knows he's got 6.5 minutes to get it done.
Ray got his first win yesterday in race 1. That one, things fell his way. This one he's going to have to earn. Keeping Rocky T. Bolduc behind, no mean feat. This should be fun.
Indeed, and you look at these drivers, and they may not have the speed of the guys up in the pro category, but they have just as much passion, if not more, than some of the pro drivers that are out here. And Bolduc, one of those drivers who has a passion for motorsport, gotten to a place in life through his businesses that he's able to go do this and absolutely loves it. And he knows where the flasher is. He's shining those high beams there a couple of times in Shaheen's rearview mirrors, trying to break up his rhythm just a little bit. Good entry into the corner. See if he can get that over and under going and get a little momentum down the front straightaway here.
Had a couple of wins to close out the season at Misano. One win earlier in the year at Watkins Glen. Rocky T just missed out on the championship by a couple of points. He knows the value of a point, and he can get a few more if he can make this pass. But man, he had his hands full out wide into turn one.
Quite the save there. He was going to try to go the long way and got on the bumps. Now they're side by side in the braking zone into three.
Shaheen tries to cover off the inside. Didn't look like he got a good jump. He lost momentum out of one. It looked like that opened the door up, but once again for Baldock to try and go on the attack, unable to take advantage of it, so they settle back in line. This is going to drag out, I suspect, for the next 5 minutes. Fight for the lead in the LB Cup class.
Braking zone for 7. Hard to get it done down here if you're not right on that rear wing. A big bump just as you go to the brakes can sometimes upset the car, throw the ABS into a little bit of a panic mode there. So Baldock, good job to stay back there. There's another opportunity into 10, but he's not close enough to get it done. Seems like Rocky is a little bit better in the higher speed corners on the racetrack, and Shaheen good in the brake zones.
Potential developments in the Pro-Am class. The class-leading car had a short pit stop time and will have 1.7 seconds added to it. That is Danny Formal. He's got enough time in hand with 4 minutes to go that it shouldn't cost him a class position. But let's keep that in mind. If he has a bobble and if Seth Henry can get a little bit closer, that could change that result.
Be interesting to see if your pit stop is short by less than a second. It's a multiplier of 3. So if you're half a second short, you're going to end up with a 1.5 second penalty. If it's more than 1 second short, but less than 20 seconds short, it's a drive-through penalty. And if it's more than 20 seconds short, well, obviously you were trying to cheat, or no one on your team has a stopwatch, and that is a 3-minute penalty post-race. So most of the time you'll see right there, right around a second, maybe a little bit less, but that 1.7 seconds, like you said, for the 10 car, that could be pivotal. It could change a position.
It could, but I mean, things would have to change pretty dramatically for that to make a major effect. Right now, that car is 4th overall, Seth Henry 8th overall, and there's about 15 seconds between the two of them. Should also know Brandon Godovic also was given a penalty for the same infraction, but it was incredibly minor, just 0.2 of a second added to his time, and he's got plenty of gap to the next car in his class. That's Darius Trinka.
So you're talking 0.065 seconds short on the stop.
Pretty much.
Wow. That's impressive. It's impressive, but at the same time, we operate in this world of motorsports that is all about thousandths of an inch and a half a horsepower and so on and so forth. So I guess it's not surprising the timing and scoring would be that accurate. 2.5 minutes to go for Will Bamber across the line. It should be 2 more laps. 2:02.5 is his best lap time of this race, so it's going to be 2 more laps for Bamber.
Ericsson marginally quicker on the last lap, but we're talking less than 1/10 of a second. Not enough to make a meaningful difference. Will Bamber, if he can keep it neat and tidy, this would be a clean sweep to start a brand new season. Their championship pursuit starts here. TR3 Racing, this is their home race, based in Davie, Florida. Really good operation. They've been running single-make cars for a long, long time, and really the last half-decade or so, linked up pretty tightly with Lamborghini.
And if it finishes this way as well, big day for TR3 Racing, because if Newells can hold on to that AM lead and Bamber can hold on to the lead overall and in Pro, they'll have 2 class wins today here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America competition. Wayne Taylor Racing would take the win in Pro-Am, and in LB Cup, it would be Torino Racing with the win. But it's a 65 slow in the 37 spun. What is going on in turn 17?
Well, that is strange for sure. Just over a minute to go. Were those related?
I don't think they were close to each other, but the 65, remember, had been in close quarters with the 99 of Bolduc. Did they get together, and was the 37 a spin because he's in the middle of the corner and sees a melee in front of him and has to lift out of the throttle? Not really sure right now, but Bolduc being shown in the lead in LB Cup.
Oh, that's really interesting. All right, we're going to have to try and put those puzzle pieces together. Good news is that Wilson's able to continue on, but very much delayed by that. That's unfortunate for him, but at least we get to stay green.
Here we go. White flag. Will Bamber, 3.7 miles, 17 turns left, and he cannot relax. Hampus Eriksson in his Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 just there behind him. So that pressure will remain as the 37 back underway. Gotten that car back up and going, which is a good thing. Sitting there in turn 17 is not a fun place to be.
I can't imagine that would be a pleasant experience. Blind quarter, high speed, high commitment, and unsighted, like I said, to the drivers coming through. So good thing he was able to clear off.
Tell you what, this could be a problem for Will Bamber. He's got two cars in front of him. One is a team car, but two slower cars, and that is going to allow Hampus Eriksson to close. He's going to catch these cars in the braking zone of turn 10, I think.
And Hampus gave up a little bit of time to Bamber on the last lap. The gap crept up over a second for the first time in some time, but he's starting to close in again, maybe cooling off the Hancooks a little bit, trying to mount a charge, seeing that traffic up ahead. That could be the site of opportunity.
And tell you, this is one of the more difficult areas to get it done, this turn 13 area. You don't slow the car down very much, and now you've got to get through 14, 15, and then 16 onto the back straightaway. And Bamber letting his presence be known, trying to sneak alongside. He does. He clears one of the two cars, and Eriksson comes with him.
That might have been the race clinching move. He got enough of a run, was decisive enough to get alongside, put the traffic in between himself and his nearest pursuer. And look at that, Eriksson absolutely stymied by the traffic. Nothing they can do. They were in a fight of their own, and just a tough place for Eriksson to catch them. But that is picture perfect for Will Bamber.
Well, and who did he kind of get balked up behind? Did Eriksson? One of the TR3 entries. So not saying team orders there, I think it just worked out that way, but certainly Will Bamber got a little help from one of his teammates. Will Bamber, Elias De La Torre, TR3 Racing 2 for 2 at Sebring in 2026.
What a fantastic start to their year across the line. In the Pro-Am class, Danny Formal, also perfect for Wayne Taylor Racing in the Pro-Am class, teaming up with Graham Doyle to get the victory for the second day in a row.
As the cars cross the checkered, or across the start-finish line, I should say, and take the checkered flag. Waiting, I think I know the answer here, but I'm waiting for Henry to go across the line just to make sure that somehow he didn't find a massive amount of speed and that Danny Formal would drop a position. He does not. So Formal's position is safe. Now, waiting for AM and LB Cup. Checkered flag is out, and in the AM category, Newells for TR3 Racing. Can they make it 2 wins on the same day? They do. Newells across the line aboard the 70 and takes the win. Dean Newells wins for TR3 at Sebring.
And an LB Cup, Rocky T. Baldock started on pole yesterday. It was a tough day, only managed to finish 5th. But looks like he's been able to win out in that duel with Ray Shahi. Now just needs to bring that car across the line. Still a little ways down the order, waiting for him to make that appearance, but pretty strong outing, all things considered. Here he comes through turn 17 on the headlight flasher button and sees the checkered flag. First win of the season to Rocky T. Baldock in LB Cup.
And Ryan, you didn't say it, and I kind of thought you would. It was sweet revenge for Rocky T. Baldock and his Baldock Maple Farms Lamborghini. So, yeah.
A sticky situation yesterday, but sweet revenge today.
There you go. That's what I expected from you. Great job. I mean, anytime you put 39 cars on a racetrack, you're going to expect some excitement. We certainly saw plenty of that, more than what we wanted to some extent today, but great racing in the 4 different classes. And you think about the varied experience that these drivers have. Saw the 63 go by, one of the TR3 cars. Let's see if we can find out what happens down in 17. I think
Whoa.
I think the 65 just gets up wide, trying to carry too much speed in the corner, and then that really kind of upsets the apple cart behind him. When you turn in down there and you are on the limit, that's indeed what happens to the 37. He gets in there and sees slower traffic. The car's at the limit, and as soon as your foot comes off the throttle, you're going to transfer weight to the front end of the car. The front tires are going to stick more. Rear tires are slowing down because the engine compression braking. It's like grabbing the handbrake on your car. Car's going to get loose, and that's not where you want that to happen.
Well, Ray was able to keep going at least.
Right.
And did secure third place. So a double podium, but boy, it could have been a whole lot more.
All right. 4 different classes, and saw an unsportsmanlike message come up on the timing screen, but I didn't see who it was for.
It's Ernie Francis, and that will be reviewed post-race.
Well, there's a look at your results. Bamberg De La Torre, we talked about how they came into this season wanting this championship in the worst way after being denied last year. This is the way you win championships. 2 for 2 on the weekend.
Fantastic for them. 2 second places for Ericsson and Persing. I think they can be reasonably pleased. Great bounce back, though, for the ANSA guys. Queen and Gore didn't finish yesterday on the podium in race 2.
Hey, that's Pro and Pro-Am. Looking a little bit further back, shows you just how quick the Pro and Pro-Am drivers are, because our Am and LB Cup is even further back down the line. Good races for some, not so good for others, but you show up at the next weekend and do it all over again. And there is Newells with the victory in the Am category, and Rocky T Bulldog Top Racing returning to Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Good to see that team back, and they will celebrate the victory here at Sebring.
Tough outing for some of the names on this list. Holguin had the puncture. Peterson and Tasca had all kinds of issues, and then Lawley ended up in that tire bundle. Happy to see him walk away from that one.
39 cars, we talked about it being a record for Lamborghini Super Trofeo in round 1 of a championship. Hopefully we can continue this throughout the remainder of the season. Great, great stuff. We go from Sebring. We talked about the schedule a little bit earlier, Ryan. We go to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca next. What a great racetrack in general, but certainly for this series.
Well, the challenge here at Sebring, it was the bumps at Laguna Seca. It's the twists and turns and elevation change. What a great venue as well. Beautiful part of the world.
Should be some great stuff. Ryan Marine and I, Brian Till, will be with you all season long to bring you all the action of Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Do not miss a lap. We'll see you next time from California, everyone.
Welcome to 2026 in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America. And is there any more fitting a venue to kick off a season than here at Sebring International Raceway? I don't think so. My name is Peter Mackay. I'll be taking you through the whole season here in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America. And joining me, a voice that's very familiar to the IMSA radio and TV airways, Ryan Marine. Ryan, the air of anticipation and excitement and a little bit of, shall we say, worry in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America paddock is absolutely palpable, because we're going into the unknown now. Race distance with a brand new race car.
Oh, so exciting. New car, new tire partner in Pirelli, and the reviews have been glowing from everyone since they first got their hands on this car at the Open Series test about a month or so ago right here at Sebring. It's carried over through the practice sessions, through qualifying. Track record type of pace out of this new car right out of the box. And now the question is, what will these races look like? We're about to find out.
That we are. Well, as I mentioned, Sebring is just dripping in history from its every pore. But it's not all just about the stories. It's about this surface here, right in the center of Florida. We've been racing here for 76 years. The 12-hour has been running for 74 years. 17 terms with names like Gurney, Fangio, Collier, Cunningham. These are all names which are all part of the rich tapestry, not just of American sports car racing, but global sports car racing. And Porsche, 19 victories here at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, but so challenging. Turn 1, super quick in these Porsche Carrera Cup North America cars, tipping in at 155 miles an hour. Then you get down towards turn 7, a great chance to maybe slip on the brakes using that new superior braking performance of this new 911 Cup to switch by. And then Sunset Bend, the corner of 1,000 lines as they often call it. It is a real cracker. The cars are already making their way around on the pace lap. We're behind the Pirelli P0 pace car, a beautiful Porsche 992.2 GT3, I'm sure, equipped with the right rubber too. Of course, you can get a Pirelli tyre factory fit on pretty much any Porsche in the range. Tyler Maxson on pole position, Ryan, and what a job he did in qualifying.
Oh, fantastic. He was the vice Rookie of the Year a year ago. It was a really good season, won a couple of races, but we feel like it's wide open in the pro class. Top 3 in the championship have moved on to pastures new, and he has slotted in nicely just ahead of the Rookie of the Year of a year ago, Aaron Johnson. And what a pole lap it was, shattering the track record and really blitzing the rest of this field.
Well, we have 27 cars and 3 different categories here, so let's look through the grid for this first round of the Porsche Carrera Cup North America season. Tyler Maxson then for Top Racing starts on pole with his main rival Aaron Johnson for Kelly Mawson Racing for Children's right along beside him. Then it's Jared Thomas, a big step forward for Jared and the JTR Motorsports engineering crew. They're loving this new Porsche 911 Cup. They'll start along beside the impressive young teenager Paul Bocuse for Kelly Moss. Then it's Cole Clegg and Callum Hedge making his debut in Porsche Carrera Cup North America, coming one of many drivers that have come over from New Zealand to take part in this champion, including the reigning champion Ryan Yardley, or outgoing champion maybe more accurately. Connor Bloom will start from 7th alongside Jana Stiak. Then it's Sabre Cook and JCD Dubet. Patrick Mulcahy will start in 11th. Then it's Marco Cironi and Jean Jodoin. Nikita Lastikin rolls off from 14th. Then it's Richard Edge and Alan Metney. Chris Palomo and Rob Walker head towards the end of the top 20. Then it's Scott Blind and James Sofronas. Caden Kelly will start from 21st. Then it's John Getz, Alan Scalzo, Josh Conley, Brady Berman, Kevin Stadler and Alex Pratt will start at the back of this 27-car grid. Drivers making their way around towards Le Mans curve and onto the Ullman straight. Alec Ullman, that vision he had along with his colleagues all the way back in the late 1940s to bring endurance racing to the United States, the racing that they enjoyed so much over at Le Mans. They succeeded quite quickly, and it has held the test of time. But here in Porsche Carrera Cup North America, Ryan, the tension is building so much, the start of a brand new year. Well, so much at stake, so much work has been put in the off-season preparing for this new challenge, the new cars, the new tires. And it all really culminates here. A championship bid begins right here. 40 minutes on the clock, first race of the season. Lights out on the Pirelli P0 safety car. We're about ready to go. We are. Our race crew pole sitter Tyler Maxson will lead us away. And on the flag stand, the CEO of Privé, Shay Holscher, a big Porsche fan herself. She's not just going to wave the flag. She's going to give it a big old wave and promised that she's going to go for it here to lead these 27 Porsche 911 GT Cups into action. Then 40 minutes on the clock. Green flag is waved and Tyler Maxson hits the loud pedal and gets the jump as they head towards turn 1 with Aaron Johnson in the number 24 car looking to the inside but not close enough to Maxson. But here comes Jared Thomas in the 96. Jared Thomas up the inside at turn 1 and looks like he's going to get this place as they head towards Christensen, but Maxson's away at the front. Johnson tries to go deep on the brakes, but Jared Thomas says no way. They know each other well from other IMSA series as they head through Masters pole sitter there, Rob Walker also. Then Tyler Maxson heading out now, leading the way through Gurney Bend, but great start for Jared Thomas into second. Oh, that was really opportunistic. He saw the door open up to the inside, down into turn 1. He got alongside Johnson and he made the move stick. Now sets off in pursuit of Tyler Maxson. Meanwhile, it's 3 wide down into the hairpin. Big lunge from Jana Stiak, the Carrera Cup Deutschland star, making his debut here today and making his presence known early on as he's fighting away with the number 7 78 of Cole. Clegg are side by side now, heading into Cunningham. Clegg takes the position back, and Sabre Cook in the Previa car trying to make her way through. No, not quite, but putting the threat in there as they go through Cunningham, already round to the latter part of the lap into Tower Corner. Good start as well. Callum Hedge up to 4th place.
How about that? His first race in this championship, but he's a former Carrera Cup champion in his own right down in Australia. Spent the last couple of years racing at Indy Next, the rung below IndyCar in the North American open wheel ladder system. He says he feels like he's back home in a tin top. This is where he wants to be.
Jared Thomas going to try and go for the lead now. Tyler Maxson is under huge pressure here as the JTR Motorsports engineering machine right underneath the rear wing of of Maxson's Top Racing machine. They go through the Ullman Straight now on the brakes into Sunset Bend, and here comes Thomas. Here comes Thomas. What a great move there. Now, can he make it stick though as Maxson tucks in that little bit tighter? They're side by side as they come to the start finish line. Maxson looks like he's got his nose ahead as they're still side by side. Who is going to be the bravest then? Coming down into turn 1, Thomas up the inside, and Thomas leads at Sebring then. Maxson drops back to 2nd.
That's a pass that didn't end until turn 3, but it started all the way back in turn 16 when Thomas was able to keep it tucked really close under the rear wing of Maxson. That's been one of the talking points. Revised aerodynamics, specifically on the front of these Porsches. The hope was that there wouldn't be so much aero wash effect when running in traffic, that you'd be able to stay closer, maybe set up some slipstream passes. That's exactly how it played out. But give Maxson credit. He didn't go quietly. He fought that tooth and nail. Ultimately, though, nothing he could do, and Thomas has gone to the lead.
Well, Jared Thomas, they brought his team into this championship last year, got to know the car, the 992.1 at that time, but of course was a little bit behind the 8-ball really, because all the other teams had been in the championship for so long, but they knew this would be a reset. New tyre package with Pirelli this year, and of course a brand new Porsche 911 Cup, and they really seem to have unlocked the speed from it. Loves the front end, great mechanical grip from the combined tyre package. It's all wide. Whoa, Jared Thomas has a massive moment coming out the exit of Tower there. It's really sandy on the exit. The rear of the car started to step away. Maxson not quite able to capitalise, but that will have raised the blood pressure of Jared Thomas by quite a bit.
It's a good thing he had already built a pretty healthy lead. Keep an eye on the leader here in replay. Coming through the corner, just dips those left sides off into the dirt. You can see he is by no means the first driver to do that here this weekend, or indeed over the last few weeks. There's been a lot of track activity here at Sebring. There's a big rut down there, and as that develops over the course of the weekend, you can bottom that car out over the curb if you tip the left-hand tires off the side of that curb. Looks like he got away with it and will hang on to the lead, but Maxson's on the charge.
Maxson trying to get that position back from Jared Thomas, that race crew pole position he'd worked so hard for, and Thomas defending hard going through turn 1 at the moment. So it's Thomas from Tyler Maxson, then in 3rd it's Aaron Johnson in the number 24 Kelly Moss car, then it's Callum Hedge, the newcomer, the Kiwi, in 4th there, and rounding out the top 5 is Paul Bocuse.
Some penalties handed down for start infractions from race control, including a false start penalty 10 seconds post-race. That's going to Alan Scalzo. He was lined up in the wrong column. Also a penalty to Kevin Statlander. He'll get a penalty 10 seconds post-race as well for a false start. So he got moving a little bit too soon. So a misfortune there for those two already. We also have an incident under review. We'll get to that in a moment. Keep an eye out towards the back. We'll see if anybody jumps too soon. You can't break column until the start-finish line, and there you see Statlander doing exactly that, and that's what's going to draw the penalty. Now a spin car around, I believe that's Scalzo. It is. Scalzo. So he's got the penalty coming, plus he goes for a bit of a ride. Looks like he didn't hit anything, though, and able to continue on.
Well, it doesn't rain, it pours. And Scott Blind, reigning champion in Masters, there's an incident between him and car number 68, Chris Palomo, and Chris Palomo has been handed a 10-second post-race penalty. So straight away, very quick decision there from Race Control Scotland, sitting third in the Masters category at the moment. Now, we have 3 categories: Pro, Pro-Am and Masters. The Pro cars can be signified by their orange accents on the front splitter. Then Pro-Am is green, and then in Masters they are yellow. So whether you're watching around the circuit or indeed in our pictures on IMSA TV, you can follow which car is in each class. They all start, certainly in terms of technically, they're all exactly the same. They arrive from Porsche Motorsport in exactly the same trim. It's all just where the age of the driver goes in. But one great story, Ryan, is Alan Metney, double champion in Pro-Am. He has decided, you know what, I've dominated Pro-Am, I've got all the records, I'm going to go in the Pro. He would actually qualify for Masters. Amazing, when you've got to be over 50 years old.
Yes, and because he found himself mixed up with all the Pro cars quite frequently last year anyway, he's elected to run in the Pro class this year. That'll be a fun story for us to track throughout the course of the season. Penalty, by the way, handed down to Chris Palomo. That was for contact with another car. I believe it was car 45, Scott Blind. That was the other car involved.
Yeah, it was.
And Race Control adjudicating on that. Did want to also mention that Caden Kelly did not take the start here today. Evidently, he's feeling under the weather. So, Caden, if